So the gene that should be expressed that could cause the disease outcome is no longer being expressed because of some changes that's occurred. So people can change their outcome. Long term, in particular, they can change their health outcome if they consistently stay with, um, if they constantly choose to eat in a particular way or adopt a healthier lifestyle, not just food alone, but there are other factors. So knowing that food it goes beyond just the pleasure and the sustenance we derive from them, and knowing that we can actually be empowered to optimize our health by making those choices is very, very important. So that's
So, are there really foods that could cause cancer?
hmm. So it's so interesting. Here's that question. I was at a school talking to some group of kids once when one student asked me, what leads to cancer development and why do people develop cancer? And before I could even take a breath, another student shot her hand up and said, I know. So, okay, what do you know? I said, it's sugar. It's sugar. People eat
Hmm.
sugar. It was just
Wow.
one of those amusing experiences. But yes, your question. Uh,
Welcome to the True Elegance Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bunmi Akinkugbe, also known as Dr. B. Through solo episodes and guest sessions, we delve into the timeless qualities of style, grace, and sophistication and uncover what makes you truly elegant. So, sit back, relax, and let's get started on this empowering journey of becoming truly elegant.
it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense. For many years, I think people just believe that, oh, this person looks this way, so this is all there is to it. I remember when I was reviewing some of the thoughts on this,
Right,
I thought about elegance as a whole, that it's not just about how you look, it's really who you are.
right,
Who you are reflects on how you carry yourself, in how your mannerism as a whole,
right.
and also the way you treat others and the way you allow others to treat you. So it's embodies everything, not
Right.
just one part of it. So
Beautiful. You
yeah.
captured it well too.
Thanks.
And that's why I'm so excited about our conversation today, looking at your area of expertise and, how that ties into elegance as we're
Absolutely.
excited.
Same here. I'm looking forward to it.
Ladies, welcome to another episode of the True Elegance Podcast. Super excited to be on again today as we focus on things that make us truly elegant, like the pillars of the True Elegance podcast are character, confidence, and poise. So we bring along various experts that speak to these pillars and specific areas of discussion. And I'm your host, Dr. B. And I look forward to today's conversation because I have an amazing guest on the show today and I'll allow her to introduce herself in a little bit. But we've known each other for like so long, I can't even remember how long. And I've followed her journey in, education, research, impact, and it has been so insightful and impactful. And I'm so glad that I finally get to host her on the True Elegance podcast today. So welcome with me, Dr. Julia Olayanju.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. It's really great connecting with you. And like you mentioned, yes, we've known ourselves for quite a while, so it's good to be here. Mhm.
Yes, awesome, awesome. Thanks for coming on the True Elegance podcast. So, as I was preparing for this interview and discussion with you, I was looking you up online, for my True Elegance ladies, that is so important. Look up every once in a while what is showing up when you type your name. So type your name in Google, Chat GPT, all the AI apps around and see, what do people know about Bumi or Julia and see if you're proud of it. If you're not, then you probably want to do something. As I was looking around, I listened to your TEDx talk last
Oh,
year that you
yeah.
did, and that was so insightful.
Thank
And I
you.
also saw the animation that talked about your journey, about how you found yourself in this niche. So I would like you to talk a little bit to us about how you found your expertise and maybe a little bit about how you've refined it over the years.
Yes, thank you. Thanks so much for looking things up and doing your research and background before this interview. Yes, my journey started many years ago. Actually, as a little girl, I was just a very curious little girl, and I went to a store with one of my cousins, and the it's a corner store very close to our church, and we've been there a number of times. But this particular day, that store was closed. And my cousin said, I don't think this store will ever open again. And I asked her why. She said the woman just passed on. The owner of the store just passed on.
Oh no.
So I know the woman. She's very young. So I was shocked. I was like, I asked my cousin, I said, what happened to her? She said she had cancer. Prior to that time, I'd never heard the word cancer before. So I
Mm.
asked her, what's cancer? So just casually, she just said, something they've not found a cure to. So I asked, who are they? So she now explains scientist. Never heard of the word scientist before either. I was just about 7. And right there and then, I told myself, when I grow up, I'm going to be a scientist. I know it's way out there. I have no idea what it required. I have no idea what it entails. If that possibility is one, a thing to think about around me, I didn't even think about all that. I just resolved in myself that was what I was going to do. And over the years, I developed interest in the sciences. Of course, in terms of where I was going to, that wasn't that clear to me at the time, but just a mental note that I want to be involved in finding cures. So that was where my journey started. Of course, fast forward several years down the line, graduate school, and I was working on my PhD. I wasn't really uh, someone you would describe as a foodie. On the contrary, I was someone that was very meticulous about food. I really wanted my dining experience to be pleasurable. So when I think about food, I only thought about the pleasure it brought to me. So there was nothing along the line pushing me in that direction of research about food and health. It wasn't in the picture at all. So I was just curious about sciences, improving health outcomes for people, and just contributing along those lines. So it was when I was working on my PhD, like I think it was actually my 3rd year, that food came into the picture for the first time. At this point, I was already into cancer research, and I was working with an investigator that was looking at cancer metabolism as a whole. We're looking at the different pathways in cancer cells, comparing them to normal cells, and how we could target cancer cells specifically for treatment. That was all we were looking for at that time. So along the line, my dad had some medical challenges, and he was on a special diet. That was the first time
Wow.
that I started thinking about food and health, mainly because I saw some quick changes that occurred when he veered off his diet. And I was thinking, it's because of course, then I've been trained, I see cause and effect more or less, like
Okay.
something happened, this is the changes in phenotype we observed. By
Mm.
phenotypes, I mean, the health outcomes that we're seeing with my father when he veers off. And these are not allergic reactions or anything like that. But questions started popping up. And I remember there was one day I just walked up to my mentor at the time and I said, I really want to get into food research.
Mm.
I want to understand how food influences health outcomes, especially when it comes to cancer. Can we use it to delay for people that are predisposed to cancer? Can we have enough knowledge so that we can make those recommendations to delay onset of cancer or to prevent reoccurrence in people that have developed it? So we just kind of like started from that level,
Mm.
simple question, and eventually I ended up having my way, getting into research in food and health,
Mm.
and that's where it all started from. I started into food and health research. I've not looked back since then. But
Wow.
one big part of this for me is when you acquire knowledge in a particular area, it changes you. It changes the way you think, the way you do things. And beyond that, it really propelled me to want to educate people about food and health. You know, when you see something, it's a different thing when you read or you hear people talk about it. You're like, well, it's important. But when you actually get into research and experience it, and you see how powerful the food we eat is to health outcomes, then you start thinking people should know more.
Right.
People should learn more about this, and what can I do about it? So that's what led to some of the things we're doing with Food Niche, helping food industry leaders come together
Right.
and brainstorm on how we can improve our food system, making it more sustainable, making it healthier. And that's what led to
Beautiful.
Food Niche Head, where
Yeah.
we educate children about food and health, helping them to see the science behind
Mhm.
food and health. Oftentimes, we instruct them eat more vegetables, drink more water, but we do not explain why.
Why?
So we
Yes.
go into the science of it, helping them understand why. So that's pretty much a summary of things I do research into food and
Okay.
health, and then some solutions that help people in the community have better health outcomes based on food.
Awesome. Awesome. Wow.
Mhm.
What an incredible journey. Thank you for capturing that, in those first few minutes. I'm sure there's so much more to every stage of
Yeah.
what you've talked about. But the things that stand out to me, having that curiosity even from a very young age as a child that, helped you to even explore and find yourself in the path you are today. And thankful for, was it the cousin that hinted that? And you know, also influence your curiosity with that. And then, even bringing it home to yourself, to family, and then looking outward to the impact of what to do to help friends and family to gain knowledge. Because, many times, like you said, if you're just telling people to do things, and until it gets into their mindset, why and what benefits are they getting individually from it or as a family, as a unit, it might not have that much impact. Like, especially when we talk about kids, eat your veggies, drink your water, don't drink soda and all that, which also applies to adults too, and they're like,
Right.
well, it's there. Why can't I eat it? It says sweets. I like it. Everybody eats it. So why should you stop me from doing that? So those conversations are definitely worthwhile, and I'm really glad we get to dive deeper into those today. Let's talk about the importance of food. And I know you go more into the science of food and everything. So it's okay to bring in your scientific terms and expertise and also break it down at the same time. But how important is food to our overall well being?
Yes, that's a very important question. And thanks for allowing this conversation in this space as well. So, one important thing is a lot of people think about food for sustenance. They think, well, I just need food to get by. But it goes beyond that. And one of the reasons is because in the food that we eat, there are different compounds uh, present. And these compounds, now on the molecular level, those compounds that we have in food do interact with our genome. They interact with us and they can influence our health outcome. I was talking to someone recently and I was saying that a lot of times people think about genetics and health outcomes. They think, oh, this is my genome, this is how I'm made up, and this is what my life will look like, whether it's how I look, my health, my overall health, my well being. This is how it's going to be. It's all about my genes. But it's not all about your genes. In genetics, we have something we describe as, we say it's genetics, your genome, and which is the entire genetic makeup, and environment equals phenotype, which is how you look. How you look will also mean your health as well, whether disease state or healthy state. So, a very important part of that environment is the food you eat. So, thinking about what happens when I eat, as I was saying previously, it's broken down, it's absorbed into your bloodstream. The blood carries it to your cells. It can nourish your cells. On the contrary, if you're not careful about how you eat, you can have the opposite effect as well on your health outcomes. So it's knowing that food goes beyond sustenance, food goes beyond the replenishment we all look forward to or the pleasure that we derive from it. Food can actually um, interact and change health outcomes. There's some things we call epigenetic effect. So even if you're predisposed to something, in terms of by something I mean a specific health outcome. If you are predisposed to a specific health outcome, things can change by some alterations that do happen on the genome, which is what we describe broad in the very broad sense. It's an epigenetic change. That means it wasn't the change that came right that you inherited from a parent. It's something that happened due to your lifestyle choices that changed the availability of that gene to be expressed. So the gene that should be expressed that could cause the disease outcome is no longer being expressed because of some changes that's occurred. So people can change their outcome. Long term, in particular, they can change their health outcome if they consistently stay with um, if they constantly choose to eat in a particular way or adopt a healthier lifestyle, not just food alone, but there are other factors. So knowing that food it goes beyond just the pleasure and the sustenance we derive from them, and knowing that we can actually be empowered to optimize our health by making those choices is very, very important. So that's for me, if I'll answer your question, that just
Uh-huh.
sums it up right there.
Okay. Wow,
Mhm.
that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that and taking us back to some biology classes.
Yeah.
But, but I like what you talked about, the genome and the environment now determines our phenotype, like how we look. So if you want to look radiant and truly elegant, you're taking into consideration maybe like your genetic makeup, the environment you're in, and maybe also the environment you're creating in yourself. Which part of it is related to what you put into yourself in terms of food, right?
Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, when I was growing up, my mom was fond of saying that when you see someone with a very radiant skin, the first thing she asks them is, "What are they eating?" Because it really does influence people.
Okay.
Hydration,
Mm-hmm.
well, proper, just taking proper care of yourself comes from within. Like starting, what am I putting inside? What am I exposing myself to? Beyond drinking and eating, what you expose yourself to environmental factors in terms of some people live in some neighborhoods that have a lot of factories around.
Mm-hmm.
The different fumes and just they're just being exposed to different things. Those also influence uh, how your overall outlook as well. So yes, those factors really really matter.
Okay. So now in terms of food, are there recommendations on some food items or classes we should be focusing on, maybe at specific times of the day or for specific ages? Are there any specific recommendations?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I've spoken to a lot of um, healthcare professionals, from dietitians to doctors to just different specialists on this area of food and health. And one of the things that I found were consistent with all of them is eat more fruits and vegetables, drink more water. That a lot of times people talk about diets. I'm on this diet and on that diet and on every diet. Very good. But the most important thing is increasing the amount of fruits and vegetables you eat, reducing the amount of processed food you eat, and drink more water. That the more we move closer to those natural whole foods, the better it is for us.
And it's so true. But when you consider our environment and the amount of processed food, like it could be overwhelming. And sometimes in our crazy busy life, there's a tendency to just go for the food of least resistance. So you're coming from work, the fries are all over your commute route, and you're tired, you don't want to cook, you're driving by and just grabbing something. But we all know, at least to a large extent, how doing this consistently could harm us. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, I believe that even the most informed, well-intentioned person, when they are hungry and there's nothing around, they eat whatever, so it's very important to be intentionality comes with planning. So you decided that this is the path you want to go. You want to eat better. You want to make healthier choices. Then it starts with number one, clearing out those things you don't want to eat, and then planning for what you really want to eat. So, for instance, how do I want to snack? Do I want to have this set of chips and all that in my store, or do I want to have more fruits and vegetables? And how will I make it easy? So, if on the weekend, for me personally, what we typically do on weekends is we buy some fruits. We make small bags. We have so many bags. So all you need to do is just pick a bag and eat. Sometimes you even get back and you're tired, you're not ready for dinner. There's something that you can snack on that you enjoy and it's nourishing for you. So that's where that intentionality comes in. Also, during the weekends, prepping meals goes a long way to make it very easy to have proper dinner during the week. Because most people will get back home 6, depending on what the traffic dynamic looks like in your area. Some people even get back later. So starting to cook from scratch at that time could be tedious or just undesirable as a whole. And having something prepped already that you could just warm or something that won't take much time to prepare would go a long way to make it possible to eat well. So bottom line is that commitment that okay, I really want to do this, and then intentionally planning. What are some of the things that will make it easy for me to do it? Or what are some things that will be impediments and taking care of those impediments right away. So there's a lot of intentionality to making this happen.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, I totally resonate with that in terms of meal planning. It's just like every other aspect of life. If you don't plan, then you're probably going to derail from your goals and your plans in
Mhm.
sticking to what you've decided to do. And one thing that I also try to do as well is sometimes I don't stock my pantry or my fridge with those questionable items. So, like, I know if I have a bowl of ice cream in my fridge, I'm going to be thinking about it all day. And then I'm gonna dig into it at some point and probably overindulge. I remember one of my coworkers recently had, the mini pints of ice cream and,
Okay.
brought it into work, just as a dessert after a meal. And I was like, oh, that is so cool and disciplined, at least restricting yourself to that
Yourself.
mini dose
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
beyond just having a whole bowl that you're digging into and you're taking the first serving and second serving and like, oh, I've taken 3, 4 servings already.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something very important right there. Being part of being intentional is
Hmm.
saying, okay, I'm going to be practical with myself. I enjoy having this, but I'm going to have it in small quantities. Or
Right.
I have a friend once that she said she she typically takes about uh, 6 to 7 cans of Coca-Cola every
Mhm.
single week.
Wow.
And she gained so much weight and she wasn't just happy with the way she looked. To your point on elegance, one of the important part of it is feeling good about the way you look.
Right.
So if you're not excited about the way you look, you won't carry yourself well, everything is affected. So she
Mhm.
wasn't happy with the way she looked and she decided to do something about it. And she said she just took stock of what she consumes every day, every week, and she saw that, oh wow, this is a lot of soda that she takes in every day, and she decided
Mhm.
she was going to cut it off. So she didn't just cut it everything off completely.
Right.
She started with like, okay, then how about I read once a day? I'm sorry, once a week, I'll cut it off. Then the
Okay.
2 weeks down the line, I'll cut off two cans this next week, and then 3 cans, and then gradually she was able to remove it all from her diet completely.
Mhm.
But she said that she found water very boring. So it was a struggle for her. So she started thinking, how can I make water more enjoyable for me? Because if you're
Mhm.
cutting something off, you're
Right.
replacing it with something else. So
Mhm.
she started thinking, how can I make water more enjoyable for me? And that was how our journey into making flavored water and just different things to make it enjoyable. So yes, to your point, it's always a good idea to be very practical with yourself. You know what works for you,
Right.
and you know where you are and where you want to get to, and just taking
Mhm.
baby steps in that direction. And yeah, it's always a good way to go.
Awesome. And I think accountability also plays a major role, one being intentional, then incorporating accountability, whether in terms of an app, food diary, where you're tracking what you're taking. Because sometimes if you're not actually keeping track of it, you won't even know
Right,
like how many cans of soda or how many cookies or how many treats you've had in a day or in a
right,
week. And
right,
so having that helps you to keep track of it. And maybe in terms of people too, because if you have family members with different goals, you want to eat
right,
healthy, someone else is like, "Oh, I'm good. I don't care,"
right,
trying to
right.
get more people on board to
What?
support you, or at least
Right,
making it clear that okay, it's okay for you to have what you want to have, but I'm holding myself accountable that this week I'm going to have a salad bowl, you know, maybe twice a week or for lunch every day. Please help me, things like
right.
that.
Right, right. Yeah, and I also think that it's important to, like, to your point, adding to the point you made that being vulnerable family members saying, this is where I am, this is something I find challenging and I want to
Mhm,
work on it.
mhm.
And by being vulnerable, they really understand your position, why you're doing it. They might not be predisposed to doing the same thing, but they can empathize and say, okay, yeah, let's support this person on their
Right,
journey.
right.
And sometimes they can even make sacrifices for you, saying, okay, this is how we can support the person. If the
Mhm.
person is, for instance, if it's someone struggling with sweets and you're trying to cut back on sweets and
Right.
you are trying to get rid of it, someone else is trying to stock the fridge with it, there'll be a problem there. So it's so important to have to have people on board
Right.
to support your journey. Yeah. Mhm.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I'm also gonna ask a question. So, there's some folks that think in one category, maybe it's too late. Like, okay, I don't care. I gained 100 pounds already. I don't think I can ever go down maybe 80 pounds. So since I'm already this, that's what's going to be. Or also some people that have, that genetic predisposition, maybe that's how the BMI and, overall appearance of their family has been. Is there anything that can be done? Is it too late? Are there measures that can be put in place?
It's never too late.
Okay.
So far there's still life, there is always something that can be done. And I think it all boils down to what that person really, really wants. You know, there are times that people are just tired of the status quo, like they really, really want change. When people are at that point, they can make change happen. But when
Mm.
people are at the point where they don't really care, they don't see any reason for it, they don't, then no matter how much people around them are trying to get them to do something, nothing will happen. So I think that the main thing is getting to that point to see that, well, I should do this because my health, my overall health is at stake.
Right,
Not just right now. Right now, everything might be great, but a lot of times what people do not see is what it predisposes you to and how that accumulates over, how it aggravates over time. So that's one of the first things that one needs to think about. Like, how does this affect me? It might not affect you, you might not mind the way you look, you might even like the way you look, but thinking about the health implications and some complications that can develop from there, you might say, okay, you know what? I've heard people say, I want to be around to see my son get married. I want to be around to see this. And you just have to find your own reason and your own rationale for what you do. But I strongly believe that when people are fully are convinced that something needs to be done, there are many approaches depending on how the situation is if the person is really obese or if they're just overweight. There's some cases where they can work with a dietitian or a coach that would help them with their diet and exercise to get back to where they want to be. Some cases are really further along that doctors could recommend interventions, other interventions, but there are different interventions for different stages. So, but very, very many successful reports, many successful outcomes with people that are overweight getting interventions as well. So,
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Because I know sometimes when people maybe look at others and they're like, well, you are skinny, you don't have a problem. But actually, that's another thing, being skinny doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy, because there could still be some health challenges that you're going through. And if you don't pay attention to it, it could evolve into other things.
of
Right.
course, of course.
Right.
And a lot of times, people that are skinny are really working hard to be that way. Not, for most people, they look at you and say, "Oh yeah, this person has it easy, and this person, just comes natural." Not
Mm.
knowing that you wake up 4 a.m., you want 2 miles, 3 miles, and this is where you cut off. People don't
Uh-huh.
know. So a lot of times, if you walk up to that person that you consider skinny and you ask them what their regimen is, you'll be surprised. You'll be really, really surprised. So, yeah, I absolutely think that people they can work on it, they can get help with it, they can talk to people about it, and change is definitely possible.
Beautiful, beautiful. I know you got into some fitness adventures recently. How is that going?
Fitness
Are you
adventure.
running a marathon or something?
Oh, yes, yes, I do. So I've always been that type of person that
Okay.
always is either I am training for a race or for the past year I've been part of this eat studio called Orange Theory. Wake up
Okay.
5 a.m. in the morning,
Yeah.
head to the gym. We spend an hour and just working out, and I just love the entire experience completely. Yes, I did a marathon 2 years ago. I've done two half marathons, and I have another half marathon coming up end of this month.
Okay.
So yes, I'm very into that space. I
Awesome.
don't consider myself a runner, but yeah, I move.
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. Well, I have two of you that I'm tracking online, that we're never the fitness gurus and everything, but from taking one step at a time, one run at a time, I'm just seeing the transformational effects, and it's quite inspiring. Yeah.
Oh,
So thanks for sharing that.
thank you.
And as we wrap up today, the last series of questions I want to ask has to deal with, the carcinogenic beliefs and theories around food. So, are there really foods that could cause cancer?
Hmm. So it's so interesting. Here's that question. I was at a school talking to some group of kids once when one student asked me, what leads to cancer development and why do people develop cancer? And before I could even take a breath, another student shot her hand up and said, I know. So, okay, what do you know? I said, it's sugar. It's sugar. People eat
Hmm.
sugar. It was just
Wow.
one of those amusing experiences. But yes, to your question, um, food. So there's some things we call they're carcinogens. They can cause cancer,
Hmm.
but natural foods like what we get from the farms, the produce from the farmers market, and things like that are not are not things that we can put into that category. Are
Okay.
there foods that have ingredients, about additive ingredients that could be carcinogenic? There are
Hmm.
times where there have been different advocacy groups and different research groups that are saying, okay, we need to remove this item from our foods. It's
Hmm.
been found to be carcinogenic. We need
Right.
to remove this. But these are all additive ingredients. And we have an office in the FDA called the Office of they're really focused on additive ingredients, and
Okay.
they evaluate different compounds that we put in food. Of course, these things are not put in food for nothing. A lot of them are for to preserve the food. Some of them are to add taste, texture,
Flavor.
just different things, right? But over time, research might just show that okay, this compound in particular could be carcinogenic.
Right.
So, to your question, food, produce, and all fruits, veggies, and all those that we eat are not. Well, so far, we've not had reports of carcinogens in those, but there have been reports of some additives that we find in foods that are carcinogenic. And in those cases, once a paper is published or there's reports on those, a lot of times there'll be changes in requirements. And sometimes you hear of food recalls, there are always steps to take those things off the market. I also have to add that before any item goes on sale, at least in the US. I can't say for other countries, but in the US, there's a lot of regulation.
Right.
And there's some items that if it's in food, if there's some additives that if it's in food, they wouldn't allow you to sell it in the stores. So if it's in the stores, it's gone through an approval process. So yes, the answer to your question is yes and no, depending on where. So if somebody is listening and is in another country and say, oh, that compound I saw in my food yesterday, they said it's this. And processed food have different ingredients. And mainly those ingredients are to preserve them, to help you enjoy your experience with them. And there's some of those compounds that research have been showing that they could be carcinogenic. But predominantly, the food we eat here are relatively safe for consumption.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for that, for
Pleasure.
that expertise balance, because sometimes some foods or items are just categorized as this and that, but it depends on what the item is and looking at it as a bigger picture, what ingredients have been added, what nutritional value is it providing, and being able to make decisions from that. So
Right,
thank you.
right.
Thank you for
It's a
sharing that.
pleasure. It's a pleasure.
This has been amazing. And before you go, just to relax and not be in your scientific mode, I'm going to ask you some quick, rapid questions. And some of it has to do with food or the true elegance. So, if you had to, what's your favorite drink in the morning? Are you a coffee, tea, water?
I'm a water person. A water
Okay.
person, yeah. Because most mornings I'll have gone for a run. I need a drink. So it's always water.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. Orange juice or fruit smoothie?
Smoothie is my preference. Yeah.
Nice. What's your favorite season of the year?
Spring.
Spring? Why?
Yeah. I just love not too hot, not too cold. It's just
Okay,
right. Yeah.
beautiful. In Georgia, spring is like when all the pollens are out. So you want
The
to go
holidays.
out, but it's like, okay, will I
Yeah.
survive it? But I think mine is fall. Love it
Okay.
that way. Favorite
Mhm.
color?
Pink.
Oh, beautiful. And what's your favorite pastime? If you had to relax and do something that would really refresh you, what would that be?
Oh, that would be just lying by a beach with a book.
Ooh, beautiful. I
Yeah.
love that. Water and a book.
Yes. And a book. Yeah.
Oh, Dr. Julia Olayanju, thank you so much for being on the True Elegance podcast
It's
today.
a pleasure. It's a
Yes,
pleasure. I
yes,
really enjoyed the chat. It's been a
beautiful.
pleasure.
And where can people find you and follow you?
I am on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. Those are three main platforms you can connect with me on. And you can
Okay,
also find me at juliaolayanju.com.
beautiful, beautiful. It's been nice having you today, and we'll definitely be in touch.
Thank you. It's great being here too.
Awesome, awesome. Be sure to subscribe so you'll be the first to be notified of every new episode. Leave a review and share this podcast with that elegant lady in your life. This is a space where we can come together to empower and inspire each other and live feeling elevated and enlightened. See you in the next episode.